Noah and I were together for 6 years. 6 long years of what I thought was loyalty, partnership, and, honestly, a ridiculous amount of patience. And when I say patience, I mean I was the one keeping our entire life afloat while he hopped from one life-changing idea to the next like a bored kid switching TV channels. First, there was the YouTube era where he swore he'd be bigger than Markiplier, even though he posted twice a month and rage quit whenever a video didn't get traction. Then came the NFT craze, where he insisted we were on the brink of becoming millionaires. Spoiler, we were not. After that, he went through a crypto as my destiny phase and managed to lose most of what little savings he had. And through every crash and burn idea, I paid for everything. Mortgage, me, electricity. Me, groceries, car payments, repairs, date nights. All me. He was the visionary. I was the idiot who kept believing he'd finally get it right. Every time he'd look at me with those hopeful eyes and say, "Babe, this is the one. This time it'll work," I'd swallow my doubts and cheer him on. 6 years of pep talks. 6 years of financial CPR on a grown man who refused to grow up. Things started shifting about 2 weeks ago. At first, it was small. Noah was suddenly glued to his phone, turning the screen away whenever I walked by. Then he started throwing around phrases like, "I need space to become who I meant to be," and "I feel stagnant." Normally, this would mean another groundbreaking project was loading, but then things took a turn. He started commenting on the house, my house, which was unheard of. Noah had never cared if dishes were unwashed or if laundry sat in a basket. But now he was pointing at crumbs on the counter or shoes by the door with this weird judgmental tone, like he'd been transported into someone else's personality. Then came the big moment. Last week, I walked in from work, exhausted, smelling like stale office air and printer ink, and Noah was sitting at the kitchen table. He had the same serious expression he used whenever he was about to confess he failed another grand idea. But what came out of his mouth? I swear I thought I'd been teleported into a prank show. "I think we should break up. You don't help enough around the house." I laughed. Out loud, because surely that was a joke. But Noah didn't smile, not even a twitch. Something inside me went cold. This man, the one who I had been financially supporting for years, the same man who thought reheating pizza counted as cooking, had just told me I wasn't contributing enough. When I asked what he meant, he doubled down. "You're messy. I always have to remind you to clean. I feel like I do all the emotional labor here." Emotional labor? This is the same guy who shuts down if the Wi-Fi drops for 5 minutes. Who forgets my birthday unless I remind him, who can't order takeout without asking for my approval 3 times, and still messing up. Let me paint you a crystal clear picture. I work brutal hours to keep the bills paid. Sometimes I leave a coffee mug on the counter. Sometimes I don't fold laundry right away. But I pay for the life he lives. His biggest household contribution was reorganizing my bookshelf badly and throwing out perfectly fine containers because they didn't spark joy. And the best part? After announcing the breakup, Noah instantly started acting like the house was his. He talked about how this would be a fresh start for both of us. How I could probably move back with my mom. How he'd turn the guest room into his office. And how he might finally get a dog now that there wannabe hair complaints. And that's when it clicked. He genuinely forgot or never cared that the house is 100% mine. The deed, my name, the mortgage, my payments, every repair, my wallet. I quietly got up, walked upstairs, locked the bedroom door, and took a long breath. I wasn't going to fight him. I wasn't going to argue. I wasn't even going to correct him. No. I was going to let him sit in his fantasy comfortably, confidently, until reality slapped him so hard the universe shook. Because Noah had no idea what storm was about to hit him, and honestly, I couldn't wait. So, remember how Noah proudly declared I should be the one moving out? Well, I let him believe that for a week, and watching the delusion in action was, honestly, Oscar-worthy entertainment after our so-called breakup. Noah walked around my house like he was auditioning for a role called Man Who Pays Rent, even though he hadn't paid a single bill in years. He lounged on the couch like a king surveying his kingdom, left dirty plates wherever he wanted, played video games until 4 a.m. and spoke to me in the same tone someone might use with a tenant who's overstayed her. Welcome, Dot. Then came the moment that really sealed his fate. Noah casually told me he was having a friend over. Didn't ask. Didn't check. Just muttered it like I was the background character in his life. His friend, right. When the doorbell rang, I opened it expecting one of his gaming buddies. Nope. Standing, there was a woman holding a bottle of wine, wearing a cute sundress and a smile that said I Googled easy first day outfits. Her name was Ava, and she was painfully polite, which almost made me feel bad for her. Almost. Because the second she saw Noah, her eyes lit up. And the way he placed his hand on her lower back. Yeah, this wasn't a friend. He didn't even bother introducing us properly. He just breezed past me, leading her inside like he was giving a tour of his luxury home, which is hilarious considering the only thing Noah has ever owned outright is an old gaming chair held together by duct tape, but there he was, confidently showing Ava around, narrating like he was on HGTV. This is my living room. I'm gonna get a new couch soon, something modern. This is my kitchen. I love the open layout. Great for hosting. And this is my office. And that's when I almost lost it. Office? Sir, that is the spare bedroom where you take naps after losing in Fortnite. Ava was soaking it all in, probably imagining she'd moved in with some stable grown man. Meanwhile, I was gripping my coffee mug so tight, I'm surprised it didn't crack. Had two choices, blow up and expose him as a freeloading. Unemployed liar, play it cool and let him dig himself deeper. I chose option 2. Obviously, the entire evening, Noah strutted around like he'd already replaced me, speaking to me with this smug tone as if he was doing me a favor by letting me stay a little longer. But the best part? He pulled me aside like he was the CEO giving feedback to an intern and said, I think we should start planning a timeline for when you'll be moving out. No rush, but Ava and I want to start organizing things. A timeline for me to move out of my house? I smiled and said, oh, don't worry about me. I've already handled everything. He looked so pleased with himself. Like he'd won. He had absolutely no idea what was coming. The next morning, I made my move while Noah was still asleep, snoring like a dying lawnmower. I called a locksmith. He arrived, changed every lock in less than an hour, and I paid him with a smile. Then I sat down with my tea and waited. Around noon, Noah stumbled into the kitchen. Stretching like a man who conquered the world, I looked up and said sweetly, by the way, I changed the locks. You need to gather your things and leave by the end of the day. The way his face drained of color? Masterpiece. Michelangelo could never. What do you mean you changed the locks? You can't do that. Oh, I absolutely can. It's my house, remember? I'm the only name on the deed. On the mortgage. On the bills. On everything. You don't live here anymore? He sputtered, protested, pleaded. Guilt-tripped, the whole performance. At one point he even whispered, I thought you loved me. I almost felt bad. Until I remembered the 6 years of being his personal, ATM and emotional babysitter. Ava arrived halfway through his meltdown, clearly expecting a romantic afternoon. Instead, she got Noah shoving random belongings into trash bags while I reminded him not to forget his gaming chair. The confusion on her face was priceless. Wait, this isn't your house? Noah didn't answer. By 6 p.m., both of them were gone. And for the first time in years, my house felt like mine again. I poured myself a glass of wine, sat on the very couch she claimed he wanted to replace, and realized how close I'd come to letting him walk all over me. Not anymore. Oh, and for anyone wondering, Noah is now couch hopping between friends. And Ava? She dumped him within 48 hours when she found out he was jobless, broke, and morally allergic to the truth. Karma? A cinematic masterpiece. So things really escalated after Noah left, because apparently he wasn't done humiliating himself yet. About 3 days later, I got a call from Jordan, one of our mutual friends. The moment I heard his voice, I knew he wasn't calling just to check in. He sounded hesitant, like he was tiptoeing around something. So I asked him straight up if Noah had sent him, and after a long pause, he finally admitted it. Noah had been talking. A lot. And not just venting, he'd been rewriting the entire relationship and spreading the most unbelievable nonsense to anyone who would listen. According to Noah, he'd been planning the breakup for months, and he was finally taking control of his life. He told people I had been holding him back, that I was lazy, that he was the one keeping our life together financially and emotionally. Jordan said he had actually laughed at first because he knew none of that was true. But then he heard Noah telling slightly different stories to different people. And that's when he realized Noah was fully committed to his delusion. Noah claimed he practically owned the house because of all the work he put into it, which was wild, considering the only work he ever did was rearranging books by color and moving the couch once, when he thought it made the room more influencer-friendly. Jordan also mentioned something else, so ridiculous. I genuinely thought he was joking. Noah had been telling people he was gearing up to host a housewarming party in my house for a home he did not own, did not pay for, and had just been kicked out of. He was even showing people Pinterest boards of decor he wanted to finally implement now that the space is his. And the best part, he was telling his new girlfriend, ever the same woman he brought into my house, that the breakup was clean and mutual, and that I was already preparing to move out so they could have a fresh start. She apparently believed him and had been telling people they were planning to redecorate their home soon. I honestly could have just ignored all of this. Noah was gone. The house was mine, and I was finally breathing again. But then I remembered the years I spent carrying him financially, emotionally, and mentally. The excuses I made for him. The nights I stayed up doing everything on my own while he pursued the next big project. And now he was running around destroying my reputation just to protect his ego. That's when I snapped back into reality and decided to shut down every lie at once. I sent one calm, factual message in our mutual friends group chat explaining the situation clearly. The house was in my name alone. Noah had not paid a single dollar toward the mortgage or utilities. He hadn't held a real job since 2018, and I covered all groceries, bills, repairs, everything. I attached photos of the deed with only my name, screenshots of past bills, old email receipts, just enough to make it clear that Noah's version of events wasn't even close to reality. No emotion, no insults, just the truth laid out cleanly so nobody could twist it. The reaction was immediate. The chat exploded. Some people apologized for believing Noah's story. Others said they had been confused because he kept changing details every time he talked about the breakup. A couple of his friends tried to defend him by saying he was going through a rough time. But I shut that down with one line. Everyone goes through things, but that doesn't give anyone permission to lie, manipulate, or try to take someone else's home. Noah saw the message within minutes and called me absolutely furious. He accused me of ruining his life and sabotaging his relationships. I told him calmly that I hadn't ruined anything. He had done that himself. All I did was correct the lies. Then I hung up and blocked him, but I wasn't done. I called a local charity and donated everything of his that he left behind: his junk furniture, his broken desk, old clothes, even that overpriced gaming chair he treasured more than our relationship. The charity happily picked everything up, and the house felt lighter instantly. Later that week, Noah's parents called me. They had found out about his lies because he'd been telling them an entirely different version too. They were mortified when they learned the truth and even apologized for how much I carried over the years. His mom offered to reimburse me for some of the expenses he racked up, but I declined. I didn't want money, I just wanted them to know the truth and stop enabling him. A few days after that, I ran into Ava, the new girlfriend, at a cafe. She looked embarrassed and admitted Noah had lied to her about everything. She said he claimed he owned the house, that the breakup was amicable, and that I had already agreed to move out. She dumped him immediately after discovering he was unemployed, homeless, and full of lies. She even apologized to me, which I honestly didn't expect, but appreciated. And that's when I finally learned where Noah had been living, in his car. Turns out none of his friends wanted to let him crash because once they found out how badly he lied, they didn't trust him near their homes. Even Ava wouldn't let him stay with her once she realized he'd been stringing her along with fake promises. I won't say celebrate anyone's downfall, but I will say this karma arrived early, stayed late, and didn't skip a single detail. Right when I thought Noah couldn't possibly sink any lower, the situation somehow managed to get even weirder. Last week I was having lunch with my younger sister, Maya. I noticed she kept glancing at her phone and giving me these guilty little looks. Finally, I put my fork down and asked what was going on. Her whole face scrunched up like she was bracing for impact before she said, "Please don't get mad. But Noah contacted me last week." I swear my heart stopped for a second. Apparently, Noah had been reaching out to anyone remotely connected to me, and my sister was just his latest target. Maya explained that he sent her a long message about how he was losing everything because of me and needed her help to fight back. According to him, we had some sort of verbal agreement about the house, and I betrayed him. He told her he had contributed countless hours of labor and emotional investment into making the house ours. Maya actually laughed while telling me this because she remembered all the times he sat on the couch for 7 hours straight, conceptualizing while I fixed everything myself. But then she admitted something that made me choke on my iced tea. Noah asked her for money. Not $50 or $100. He asked my little sister, who works part-time and goes to school, for enough cash to get stabilized so he could launch his legal plan to take back the house. And she gave it to him. $2,000. I literally felt my soul leave my body for a second. Maya looked so ashamed, but before I could explode, she handed me her phone and said, "Just read everything before you freak out." And that's where things shifted. My sister didn't just hand over the money. She made Noah sign a full written IOU with repayment terms, interest, and a clause saying he'd use his car as collateral. She even had a timestamped selfie of him signing it. When I looked at her in shock, she shrugged and said, "I wanted proof of how desperate he's become. I knew he was lying. I just wanted him to dig his own grave on paper." Honestly, I didn't know whether to laugh, cry, or give her a trophy. Later that day, I called Jordan again, and he sent me screenshots of Noah's new social media posts. Noah was painting himself as some tragic hero who'd been emotionally drained, financially manipulated, and spiritually suffocated by his ungrateful ex-me. He called himself a victim of a 6-year con. The comments were full of sympathy from strangers who had no idea who he was. He was telling people that I had used him for his tech genius and future earnings. This from the same man who couldn't figure out how to reset a router without Googling it for 25 minutes, but then the lies got even more theatrical. To some people, he claimed we had a secret domestic partnership. To others, he said I'd promised to add him to the deed for his birthday. What birthday? The one he forgot twice? He even told a friend he'd been paying half the mortgage in cash, and I lost the receipts. His stories were so wild it almost felt like performance art. A few days later, I got a message from Zoe, another mutual friend who had been keeping an eye on his drama. She said Noah had been calling around trying to find character witnesses for this imaginary legal case he was building. He told different people completely different lies. Some were hearing that I was verbally abusive. Others heard I stole his savings. One person heard I tricked him into moving in so I could dump him and keep his intellectual property, which I assume refers to his half-finished crypto project that lost 80% of its value in a week. Then things escalated again. Noah started sending me these unhinged messages about how he was going to expose the truth and reclaim what was his. He said he had dirt on me that he would release if I didn't cooperate. I didn't reply, obviously, but I kept every message. If he wanted a record, he'd get one. What I didn't expect was what happened the next day. I got a text from a number I didn't recognize, and for a moment I assumed it was Noah with a new burner phone. But it wasn't him, it was his mom. She asked if we could talk privately. And something in her tone, exhausted, defeated, made me agree. We met at a small cafe near the park. When she sat down, she looked like she hadn't slept in days. She told me Noah had shown up at their house, ranting about how he was going to get the house back and needed money for his legal fees. He claimed I had tricked him into letting all the bills be in my name and that he decontributed thousands of dollars toward the down payment in cash. His mom reminded him that I bought the house before we ever even met. But Noah didn't care. He kept insisting I had manipulated him. Then she told me something that genuinely made my stomach drop. Noah had created a GoFundMe page with the title, "Help a Good Man Reclaim His Home." He wrote an entire sob story about being robbed of his rightful place in a home he built with his bare hands. He posted pictures of my house. He even listed fake renovations. He supposedly did new flooring, electrical rewiring, wall repairs. The man once cried because he didn't know how to change a light bulb, but apparently he'd become an electrician and contractor in his fantasies. People had donated. Not a lot, but still enough to inflate his ego. His mom found the page, reported it, and had it taken down. She said watching him spiral like this broke something in her. She admitted that she de-enabled him for years because she felt bad watching him bounce from dream to dream without direction. But now she was seeing how dangerous his delusions were, and she refused to keep feeding them. She told me he'd been sleeping in his car in their driveway, refusing to come inside unless they agreed to help him with his mission, and every morning he left to go to meetings. In reality, he was just sitting in Starbucks using the free Wi-Fi to send long rants to anyone who'd listen. She said she wasn't telling me any of this to make me pity him. She just wanted me to be prepared because he wasn't going to stop until he hit rock bottom. And then she did something I didn't expect. She said she and Noah's dad made a decision. They were cutting him off. They were changing their locks, shutting off his access to their Wi-Fi, and sending him to live with his uncle in another state who had offered him a real job, manual work, no computer, no schemes. He either took it and rebuilt his life, or he figured things out alone. But he wasn't dragging me or them down anymore. When we stood up to leave, she gave me a hug and said something I'll probably never forget. "Thank you for showing him what consequences look like." For the first time in months, I woke up feeling like the worst part of this whole nightmare was finally behind me. Noah was with his uncle in another state, supposedly starting some actual job, and I thought maybe the chaos was finally over. But of course, Noah wasn't done leaving little disasters behind for me to discover. 3 days after meeting his mom, I got a knock on my door at 7:30 in the morning. I opened it expecting a package, maybe the neighbor's kid selling cookies. Instead, it was a mail courier dropping off an envelope addressed to me, marked urgent. My stomach clenched because envelopes with that label never contain anything good. I opened it slowly and found a letter from a debt collection agency. At first, I thought it had to be a mistake. I don't have debt. I pay every bill on time. But the letter had Noah's name listed right under mine, attached to an overdrafted credit card account. That's when it clicked. Months ago, Noah had convinced me to put him as an authorized user on one of my credit cards because he claimed it would help boost his credit score so he could start contributing more financially. I had forgotten about it completely because he never used the card. Or so I thought. Turns out, before the breakup, he'd used it for over $600 worth of online purchases. Gaming equipment, food deliveries, and this absolutely killed me, subscriptions for some entrepreneur mentorship platform, and then he just not paid it. I spent 2 hours on the phone explaining everything and removing him from the account. Thankfully, the agent believed me and reversed the late fees, but I still wanted to scream. This man had been pulling strings long before the breakup, quiet, little selfish decisions that left consequences for me to clean up. That afternoon, I called Maya to update her. She was furious. She told me Noah had texted her again, asking if she could extend the loan timeline, saying the job at his uncle's was not the right fit, and he needed space to figure out his creative path. My sister sent him one message back. Pay me or I take your car. Choose wisely. He didn't respond. Good. Later that evening, I met up with Jordan and Zoe for a drink. I needed to decompress, vent, and maybe laugh about something that wasn't credit card fraud. Jordan told me Noah had created a new social media account because of course he did and was posting long rants about being betrayed by the people he loved most. This new page was full of vague quotes, blurry selfies in his uncle's guest room, and paragraphs describing himself as a visionary misunderstood by small-minded people. I rolled my eyes and asked if anyone actually believed him. Jordan snorted and told me the only comments he'd seen were bots, and one old guy asking if Noah wanted to join a crypto investment group, a match made in delusion. But the real turning point came a few days later when I received another unexpected message, this time from his uncle. He introduced himself politely and said he thought I deserved an update. Apparently, Noah had lasted exactly 48 hours at the job before quitting because manual labor wasn't aligned with his purpose. Then he tried to convince his uncle to help him reclaim his house, which led to his uncle giving him a very blunt lecture about responsibility, consequences, and reality. The uncle said Noah packed his bags, took the $2,000 from Maya, and left. No one knew where he went. No one wanted to. His parents had blocked him. His uncle had given him a bus ticket he refused to use. His friends didn't want him couch surfing. Everyone was done enabling him. Later that night, I sat in my living room, my quiet, peaceful living room, and took a deep breath I didn't realize I'd been holding for weeks. The house felt different, lighter, mine in a new way, not just legally, but emotionally. I didn't feel angry anymore, or exhausted, or anxious. I felt free. I grabbed a box from the closet filled with all the little things of Noah's I'd shoved away while trying to survive the drama. A hoodie, a broken controller, old notebooks full of half-finished business plans. I drove to the donation center, dropped the box off, and walked out with the kind of relief that feels like shedding old skin. On the way home, I stopped for coffee, sat outside in the sunshine, and thought about everything I had tolerated for far too long. The mental load, the financial drain, the constant excuses, the emotional acrobatics. All of it. And then something small but meaningful happened. My phone buzzed a notification from the certificate program I had applied for weeks ago. I'd been accepted, officially. Classes start next month. A new chapter. My chapter. One I didn't have to shrink myself for or carry dead weight through. When I got home, I opened the windows, turned on music, and cleaned the house not because I had to, but because it finally felt like a home I could breathe in again. A home that wasn't filled with someone else's chaos. That night, I slept better than I had in months. No nightmares. No anxiety spirals, just peace. And today, sitting here writing this final update, I realized something I didn't expect. I'm not angry at Noah anymore. I'm not hurt. I'm not bitter. I'm just done. Some people are storms you learn to walk away from. And once you do, the sunshine feels unreal. I survived the storm, and now I'm rebuilding something beautiful out of the wreckage, something that finally belongs to me.